Welcome back to the Starketer, episode 16. Back to the usual format this week, which means we're diving straight into our key activity, which is how we can maximise the return on investment for the content we create. So, early on in the marketing function, resources can often be quite tight, but we've invested what money and time we have into creating the best possible content that we possibly can. Now, the thing is, if we're only pushing that out once, we're not going to get as maximum value from it as we possibly could have done. It's like, say, your favourite band creating arguably the best song the world has ever heard and only playing it out once, never to let it hear the light of day again. You'd feel a little bit like you'd been sold short. And the same goes with our content. So we need to think about how we can get the maximum value by reusing it at appropriate intervals from the point of creation. So maybe there's another social or cultural event that the content relates to. Bring it back up, give it a refresh. Same from a search engine optimization perspective. If the content within is somewhat time sensitive, update it fairly regularly to ensure that when people still land on it, the backlinks that you've earned are still of high quality because the information is being updated. Likewise, if we've created a blog, that's fantastic, but that's only in one silo. Let's split it up into multiple LinkedIn posts or turn it into a podcast on an audio file. We're using the same insight and expertise, but across loads of different channels, so more and more people can reach it. And by producing this across a varying timescale, it means we can get maximum insight from one piece of content, potentially across 10 to 15 different intervals. So when those resources have been invested, you're getting the maximum return because we're not using it once and then putting it away in a back cupboard, never to be seen again. Now, moving on to our key lesson for this week, in episode 16, it's entirely about the concept of not rushing. Now, this is something that I've heard a lot from some really successful marketers, and it's just all around that idea of committing to the journey and not rushing. Now, relating this to a personal story for myself, earlier in the week I posted about the return of racing, and I'm so glad to be back running again. But having the patience, especially with injury, not to rush back early and do more damage was really difficult, especially when we were locked down and couldn't really go outside. But by us not rushing and taking the time for everything to develop as it naturally will, we'll actually get to the point we want to be at in the right amount of time. If we rush things, we can often end up doing a worse job or having a negative impact upon the results that we want to achieve. So something to maybe bear in mind. We're all really keen to get to those goals straight away, but sometimes it's okay to tap the brakes and remember that not all of the time do we need to be rushing around. Now, finishing off this week's instalment with a little bit of inspiration from a company very close to my heart. Now, this week and this month, frankly, it's not been like May weather. So my levels of tea drinking have soared back up to winter levels, which has meant I've spent a lot of time staring at the Yorkshire Tea box. And frankly, I just love everything they do with their marketing, especially their adverts where they get influencers, famous people from the Yorkshire region, to tap in to the whole idea that it's a regional company, even though the product they provide is actually grown all the way on the other side of the world. But how they do it is they've created a really solid brand and tap into what that Yorkshire psyche is. And they know, especially people like myself from here, absolutely love it. So maybe there's something in that. Think about how you can tap into precisely the market you want on a way that is quite humorous, but also makes them want to engage with the brand. Thanks so much for watching this week. Really appreciate the support as always. See you next time for a brand new episode of The Starketer. Thanks very much for watching.